Pasta alla Genovese might be the best kept secret in Italian meat sauces. For me, it's all about the rich, slow-cooked onions, beef, and herbs that break down into tender goodness. Then it gets tossed with pasta and parmigiano. But I've got a feeling I can make it even better using some insider tricks. But before we dive into the beef, let's cook some pancetta. Sound good? Let's cook. I'm going to be cooking everything in a large 10-quart rondeau pan, but of course any larger Dutch oven or even an enameled pot will work as well. We're going to turn the heat up to medium and add 4 ounces of medium diced pancetta. Now the goal here is to brown them up a bit to get that Maillard process going, which only takes a few minutes, before then turning it down to low and frequently stirring it to render out as much fat as possible. Now in the meantime, we can prep up the beef. I've got 2 pounds of chuck roast. Now this tends to be the go-to cut for Genovese sauce, but I think we can make it better by adding in an additional 2 pounds of beef shanks. The bone-in cut that has that coveted marrow in it is just going to make this that much better. Other great cuts are skirt steak or even brisket. I'm going to transfer the shanks over to a sheet tray, and then I'm going to cut down the chuck into roughly 2 to 3 inch cubes. No need to be perfect here. Then, let's be sure to pat all the beef dry on all sides with a paper towel to ensure we get as good of a sear as possible. More Maillard equals more flavor, and moisture is always the enemy of achieving that. Then, we're going to generously season the meat on both sides with coarse salt and freshly cracked pepper. Now, if you have more time to prepare this meal, I highly recommend dry brining or pre-seasoning the meat, then placing it in the fridge uncovered for up to 24 hours. This will absolutely render a deeper brown crust when searing and more tender, juicy, flavorful beef. If you can do it, do it. Let's take the beef back over to the cooktop. The pancetta looks fantastic. Be sure to try some because why not? Let's transfer the lardons, leaving as much fat in the pan as possible, and add it to a bowl and set it to the side. Now crank that heat up to high and place in the beef, spreading it out across the pan. And this is why I love the rondeau. So much surface area to allow for a perfect sear, and because it's big like this, no need to brown the beef in batches. Hands down, my favorite pan to cook in. And if you happen to need a little more fat in the pan, hit it with a bit of olive oil, no problem. Okay, after 3 to 4 minutes, let's flip the beef over and you can see that beautiful brown that we all crave. So good. Let's turn the heat down to medium and cook for about 8 minutes or so. Remember, we aren't looking for an internal temp here. We're looking for browned up, delicious beef. But let's be a good steward of our time and knock out some prep. I've got 6 large yellow onions that weigh a hair over 5 pounds. Now I know this is a lot, but these are indeed the main ingredient along with the beef. We just want to simply slice off the ends, slice them in half, remove the outside peel, then slice them in half and julienne. You could also use red or white onions, but yellow onions are more flavorful once brown. And man, did these onions get to me.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, once they're sliced, we're going to split them equally in half between 2 bowls, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But first, take one of those bowls over to the cooktop, and let's have a look at the beef. And yeah, beautifully browned. The smells in here already amazing. Take out the beef and set it to the side on a plate. Now let's add in the first half batch of onions and give it a good season of salt to help release some of its moisture so that we get a better sear on them. We want to saute them over medium heat for about 10 minutes. They'll start to turn brown, especially after being cooked and the leftover beef goodness stuck to the bottom of the pan.
Now the main reason I cook half of the onions now is because I want that deep caramelization flavor. You don't necessarily get that if you just dump all the onions in at the end. This will bring about a lot more flavor.
We'll turn the heat down to low and cook it for an additional 20 minutes while stirring occasionally. But don't forget to scrape up all that fond on the bottom of the pan as much as possible. It just means more flavor. Now this will leave us with plenty of time to finish up the prep, which are only celery and carrots. So let's peel 2 medium-sized carrots, and then we want a small dice, and the same knife cut for 2 ribs of celery. You could also just do this in a food processor if you want to save some time. Also, let's not forget about the veggie scraps. These go in a bag in the freezer for stock. Let's take the celery and carrots back over to the cooktop and see how our onions are doing. And gosh, does it smell delicious in here. But of course it does. We're caramelizing onions. Just going to steal a few of these and try them out. Yep, so good.
Okay, so at this stage, let's add the celery and carrots, boost the heat up to medium-ish, and sweat the veggies for about 10 minutes. The reason we aren't browning these is because in addition to the beef, the onions are the hero, and we already enhanced the flavor of those with the initial caramelizing of half of them. The carrots and celery are more of supporting actors. What we're going to do at this stage is hit it with 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. Now, while this is classically a white sauce, this little hint of tomato is a variation from Vesuvius, can help with color, a hint of acidity, and deepen the umami flavor. We're going to pincé it, which means to pinch in French, where we slightly caramelize it, resulting in it becoming a rust color. Now this is only going to take 3 to 4 minutes. And then we're just going to add the seared beef right to the top along with that cooked pancetta, and we're almost ready for braising. But first, we've got to add in some herbs. Now instead of bay leaves, because they can be on the stronger side, I'm going to use some fresh thyme. It's a great, more subtle substitute to bay leaves. So let's add in 6 to 8 fresh sprigs. In addition, you can add in one more thing and you can go 2 routes: fresh rosemary or basil. For me, I'm going with 10 to 12 torn fresh basil leaves. And for just a hair, and I mean a hair more tomato flavor, I'm going to squeeze in about 10 to 12 cherry tomatoes. They're sweeter and pretty solid tomato to use all year round.
Sorry, dude.
And whoops, got Colin the camera guy. Sorry dude, I'll buy you a new sweatshirt. Now let's deglaze with about 2 cups of dry white wine. This could be a Chardonnay or even a Pinot Grigio. We're going to continue to cooking over medium heat until there's maybe a total of a half cup left. That's it. The goal is to concentrate that rich flavor of the wine. At this stage, we're going to add in the remaining onions. Then I personally love to add in about 1 cup of good beef stock. I've got a great homemade recipe if you want to check this out. Then give it a season of salt and pepper and mix everything together and get all those ingredients mixed in. We're going to next just add on a lid and cook it over low heat for at least 3 hours. But we'll come back every 30 to 45 minutes to have a look and give everything a stir. And honestly, this could even cook for up to 7 to 8 hours if you have that kind of time. Now, after those 3 hours, your kitchen is going to smell insanely good and your neighbors are going to start to think you're running a restaurant out of your house. We're getting close to the sauce being done, but first we want more concentration of flavor. So remove the lid and let it braise for another hour. Any liquid in the end should almost be like a syrup, and that beef will easily break apart when squeezed. If there happens to be any unwanted fat in there, feel free to simply remove it, no problem. And don't forget to remove those beef shank bones, but first be sure to scrape every last bit of that marrow out of them. We finish it up by tasting twice and seasoning once. Taste it, season it, taste it again, see what else it needs. This right here is going to steal your heart. We're close to being finished, but let's not forget about the other main star, the pasta. Now, the classic pasta to use in this is a long ziti that you actually break apart by hand into 3 to 4 inch pieces, but a penne or even rigatoni will work well. Let's add the pasta to a large pot of boiling salted water and cook it about 75% of the way there. The package says 8 to 9 minutes, so right around that 5 to 6 minute mark, we're gonna strain it and add it to a large pot. Now, add in 1 cup of that pasta water and several ladles of that Genovese sauce. And yes, there will be plenty of sauce left over for another day. This freezes really well if you want to go that route. Okay, to finish up the dish, let's add a little bit more love with some fresh torn basil leaves and of course some Parmesan Reggiano. I'm going to cook it over low heat for the remaining few minutes the pasta needs. This classic technique of finishing the pasta in the sauce will just make the ziti way more delicious. Then plate this beauty up in a bowl, hit it with a little more Parmigiano, and watch the smiles from your family and friends. So much comfort, so much goodness.
Talk about an onion and beef flavor explosion, and trust me, tomorrow this sauce is going to be next level. But if you're craving something with more of a tomato vibe, then my family spaghetti sauce is where it's at. Always a crowd pleaser. I've got a great recipe video, so I'll catch you over there. Bro. That's real. I mean, oh my God.
Yes!